Why this variation though hibiscus belong to one species, that is Hibiscus rosa sinensis? It is because their genes tend to vary. Species diversity means the diversity or variation in the organism that occurs at the species level. Proper estimates cannot be given because proper records are not yet available and there are a lot of species which are yet to be discovered. So in the Himalayan ranges, there are different varieties or different species of Rauwolfia vomitoria being present. Hello everyone, a warm welcome to today's session on chapter 15 of 2nd PUC, that is Biodiversity and Conservation. I am Dr. Divya, Biology Faculty, Vidhyaashram University College, Mysuru, Temple of Excellence. So we all know that our Earth is quite different, right? Why? Because we have a diverse variety of living organisms in our planet Earth when compared to any other planets in the galaxy. And that is what makes the Earth the most unique planet. In today's session, let us study about what is biodiversity, what are the different types of biodiversity, and let us study how many species are there in the world and in our country, India. So to begin with, let us learn what biodiversity is. So biodiversity is the term which was popularized by a sociobiologist whose name was Edward Wilson. So he used the term biodiversity in order to describe the combined diversity at all levels of biological organization. That is true, right? Take an example of an animal. You have diverse variety of animals, and in that species of animals there are again different diversities in the species of that particular animals. Diversity in the plants that are existing, diversity in the microorganisms, on the whole diversity in different life forms, and these diverse organisms or animals or plants, they are living together in one particular area, contributing to each other. So that is why he used the term biodiversity, which was popularized by the scientist Edward Wilson. The level of biological organization in the case of biodiversity is of three types. One is the genetic diversity, next the species diversity, and third one ecological diversity. So let us study about each of them one by one. So genetic diversity. So a single species may show high diversity at the genetic level over its distribution range. Say for example, we human beings, we are a single species, right? We belong to Homo sapiens. But do we look similar? Are we clones of one another? No, right? We vary in different ways. To look, we vary. That is why, because we look different, we are able to identify the different human beings that are there. Why is this difference existing? It is because of the alterations in the gene, or each of us carry some genes which is different from the other. So that is why we look different from one another, leading to genetic diversity. So variations that occur in an organism because of the changes in the gene in them, or some of the genes DNA sequence in them, which results in variation in the organism, is called as genetic diversity. So here a single species may show diversity at a genetic level. Simple example I'll take of rose, or we'll take of hibiscus plant, that is the species is Hibiscus rosa sinensis, right? All the hibiscus flowers, they are Hibiscus rosa sinensis. But in spite of that, there is variation in the color, variation in the shape of the leaf, variation in the number of stigma or the number of stamens they carry, variation in the entire plant, the height of the plant, all that, right? Why this variation though hibiscus belong to one species, that is Hibiscus rosa sinensis? It is because their genes tend to vary. Each gene of different species of hibiscus is altered, or it is different from one another, leading to genetic diversity. We'll take the example here of one plant, that is a medicinal plant which is called as Rauwolfia vomitoria. So here talking about Rauwolfia vomitoria, which produces a particular chemical compound called as reserpine. So in the Himalayan ranges, there are different varieties or different species of Rauwolfia vomitoria being present. But not all will produce the chemical compound reserpine. Why? Because they are genetically varying from one another, leading to genetic diversity. So that is one of the example. And talking about the varieties of mango. Mango, how many varieties we have, right? We have, you might have heard people selling mangoes coming shouting near your house with different names given to it, right? So how many varieties? Mango, Mangifera indica. They belong to the species Mangifera indica. All are Mangifera indica. But look at the varieties. Why is such varieties available? Again, it is because of the alteration in the genes that occur in them. And next, talking about rice. Rice also, we have the BT rice, we have the basmati, we have doddi. So there are different varieties of rice that are available. Why that variation? The species of rice is Oryza sativa. All the rice varieties, scientifically they are called as Oryza sativa itself. But how much variation is seen in the rice species, right? So that is also because of the variation in the genes that occur. So this is nothing but genetic diversity. Next, talking about species diversity. So species diversity means the diversity or variation in the organism that occurs at the species level. For example, the Western Ghats have a greater amphibian species diversity. So amphibian species diversity than the Eastern Ghats. Here you don't go in for a particular variety. In genetic diversity, we went in for a particular variety wherein we chose mango, showing different genetic diversity. We chose rice, showing different genetic diversity. But here we are going for a group of species belonging to amphibians, a group of species belonging to reptiles. So amphibians means there are different forms of frogs are there, and there are some, the tortoise is also amphibian. Like that, there are different organisms that come under the amphibians, right? So here amphibian species, they are greater in diversity in one area, which that is the Western Ghats have greater species diversity, that is amphibian species diversity, when compared to the Eastern Ghat. So this is about species diversity. So next, moving to ecological diversity. So at the ecosystem level, taking India as an example with its deserts. So here we are talking about ecosystem. What are the different types of ecosystem that are present? Deserts are there, rainforests are there, then scrublands are there, mangroves are there, then we have wetlands, coral reefs, many such things, right? So as the ecosystem level, say for example, we'll take India as an example, wherein we are studying the ecosystem of India, wherein we find in India itself, we find deserts are there, rainforest, mangroves, coral reefs, then wetlands, estuaries and alpine meadows. Alpine meadows in the Himalayan regions and all, you find the alpine meadows. Talking about the deserts, the best example is the Thar desert that is there in Rajasthan. Rainforests are there, that is the Western Ghats are best examples for rainforests. Then mangroves, the coastal area, Sundarbans is one of the best examples for mangroves here. Then coral reefs, Andaman and Nicobar, you find coral reefs there. And a lot of wetlands, wherever the backwaters are there, of the ocean backwaters are there, there you get wetlands are available, and lot of estuaries are also there, that is the grazing lands are also there. And as I told you, alpine meadows are found in the Himalayas. So we have a great variety of ecosystem diversity, right? So this is ecosystem diversity when compared to that of a Scandinavian country like Norway. So when compared to Norway, which is almost most of the time snow-capped, when compared to Norway, India has a vast ecosystem diversity. And that is why, because of such ecosystem diversity exists in India, though India's land area is very, very less, we are rich in biodiversity because different ecosystems exist in India. So that is the reason. So this is about ecosystem diversity. So next, moving further, let us exactly know how many species are there in this earth. Knowing this is very, very important in terms of conservation of biodiversity. So according to the International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, this is one important question. In the exam, they can ask for 1 mark. Expand IUCN. So you have to write International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. So according to their census, which they did in the year 2004, they said that the total number of plant and animal species is slightly more than 1.5 million. That is compared to earlier years when they did the census of plant and animal species. That is when IUCN did the census of plant and animal species in the year 2004. They said that there was a slightly increase in the number of plant and animal species. That is, there was slightly more than 1.5 million plant and animal species. But still there was no clear idea given as to how many species are yet to be discovered and described. That is true, because the best example that we can take of is ocean. Ocean is so wide and it holds a lot of secrets, right? Wherein still there are organisms which have not been discovered from the ocean. So there are millions of organisms yet to be discovered. So therefore, whatever count is given, it's not that accurate, but still every year when they go in for the census, they just give a approximate count of the number of plant and animal species that are there. And some extreme estimates range from 20 to 50 million, and some say that 20 to 50 million, but a more conservative and scientifically sound estimate made by Robert May. So one scientist, his name was Robert May, he said that the global species diversity overall throughout the planet, the species diversity is about 7 million. So 7 million, maybe out of that again many more yet to be discovered, and so on. So therefore, different organizations give different counts because of this particular reason. Some organizations may not have the data regarding the discovery of a new species, so that will be left out from the count. So that is why always how many species are there on the earth, a proper count is never available for that particular reason. And more than 70% of the all species that are recorded are animals. And while plants, that is, which include algae, fungi, bryophytes, gymnosperms and angiosperms. So algae, they can be unicellular or multicellular forms which are aquatic in nature. Then we have the fungi, which are the microorganism, or even the mushrooms also come under a group of fungi. Then we have the bryophytes. So these bryophytes are the mosses, all that come under the bryophytes. Then we have the gymnosperms, that is the cycads, the pines, whatever cone producing plants are there, they come under the gymnosperms. And we have the angiosperms, that is all the flowering plants. And these animals and plants, that is, comprises no more than 22% of the total. It is said that more than all the species recorded, 70% of the species are of animals and only 22% is of the plant. So therefore, animals occupy the difference, or the different types of animal species are more when compared to that of the plant species. And among animals, insects are the most species rich taxonomic group, making up more than 70% of the total. So out of the animals, again under animals we have insects, we have birds, we have reptiles, we have the aves. It is divided like that, right? So you have studied about that in biological classification when you studied your first PUC. So in insects, animals, how much species are there? 70% of the species are of animals itself. Out of that, insects are the most. Insects occupy the highest position. That is, more number of species of insects are present, making up more than 70% of the total. And that means out of every 10 animals on this planet, 7 are insects. Imagine, out of that, 7 species are insects and only 3 species are animals. So therefore, overall, in the species of animals, insects are the ones which occupy the major position. And the number of fungi species in the world is more when combined to all the other species of fishes, amphibians, reptiles and mammals. So, fungi species are more when you combine the different species of fishes, amphibians, reptiles and mammals. So, this is about the different distribution of species in the world. And although India has only 2.4% of the world's land area, India is a very small country, and the land area that we have, because majority is covered by water, 3 sides we are covered by water, and that is one of the reason why the land area, and we have a lot of oceans and we have a lot of seas, rivers, etc. Therefore, the land area is quite minimal in India. But in spite of having only 2.4% of land area when compared to the land area of the world, India is quite rich in species diversity, and it has 8.1%. When compared to the whole world, 8.1% of species diversity is seen in India, and nowhere else you can find so many species diversity in any of the country when compared to that of India. So that is the beauty of India. Though we are very small in land area, but the species diversity is rich. Why the species diversity is rich? Because our ecology, we have different ecology, our ecological diversity is quite vast. So that is why. And that is what makes our country one of the 12 mega diversity countries in the world. India, therefore, because of its species richness or diversity in the species, among the 12 mega diversity countries that are there in the world, India is also one among them. And nearly 45,000 species of plants and twice as many as species of animals have been recorded from India itself. So, always animal species is vaster when compared to that of the plant species, and out of that 45,000 species of plants are there, and double the amount of 45,000 species of animal have been discovered in India. And if we accept May's global estimate, that is Robert May, he put a global estimate, right? So, if we accept based on his global estimate, only 22% of the total species have been recorded so far, and remaining is yet to be recorded. Still, it has not been recorded, or data of it is not available properly. And applying this proportion to India's diversity figures, we estimate that there are probably more than 1 lakh plant species and more than 3 lakh animal species which are yet to be discovered in a country. So, therefore, whatever records are there in the Indian Wildlife website, all that whatever records are available, out of that still there are 1 lakh and 3 lakh plant and animal species to be discovered respectively. So, this is about the how many species that are there on this earth. So, what we learned from this is a proper estimate cannot be given because proper records are not yet available, and there are a lot of species which are yet to be discovered. So, that is why what is the diversity of species on this earth, giving a proper estimate is very difficult. But in spite of that, the IUCN and all that, and also Robert May, he has estimated, or he has given an approximate value to exactly say how much percentage of plant and animal species are there in this planet. So, this was about the diversity of species on the earth. So, this was about the session wherein we learnt about biological diversity or biodiversity. Under that, we learnt about the genetic diversity, the species diversity and the ecosystem diversity, and also we learned how many species are there on this planet. So, in the next coming session, let us study about the patterns of biodiversity. So, we have the latitudinal pattern and the species area relationship. So, that we will study, and also we will study about the importance of species diversity in the ecosystem. Why are the diversity or why actually different species are necessary on this planet, how they are interrelated to one another. So, all that we shall study in the coming session. So, we shall meet again in the coming session. Thank you.